Go to Gaza, bro. Show us that you care, man. I agree. If you actually went to Gaza, that would be impressive. But he can't, because he can't do it. It's a little dangerous.
First of all, we already talked about how the onslaught on Gaza is completely different than any other war that we've seen in our modern times, right? Afghanistan, Iraq, all these wars. Ukraine, we have seen much different. I mean, Ukraine had about 500 to 1,000 casualties in 1 year. We're talking about over 200,000 casualties in 1 year in Gaza. A lot of that being children, and that's not the kids who had to get amputated without anesthesia. That's not the people who are now with permanent disabilities, etc., 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 right? All of the above. But going beyond that, it's also this idea where it's like, if you don't go to Gaza, then you don't care about Gaza, when that's categorically false. As you guys know, Ethan Klein has been crashing out repetitively. This past video, we talked about part 1, which includes his crash out over CPS. But the second part of this, covering the crash out, is going to be his takes on Israel and what he said about Palestine, which has been going downhill, and it's starting this kind of snowball effect where it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger as it goes downhill. So we'll be talking about that. There's more than likely going to be a part 3 and 4 of this crash out coverage too. So make sure you like, subscribe, comment for more videos like this. We are so close to 15,000 subscribers, so help me make my dreams come true. All right, let's get into it. The first part of this is going to be Ethan Klein challenging people to find his pro-genocide statements. So basically, Ethan's like, can anyone explain these pro-genocide opinions I have? A single quote or clip? So this is the story that he posted, and he basically is in denial that he's a pro-genocide person. But then someone pulled this clip.
Their bases are under hospitals. They shoot from schools. They embed themselves in the civilian population. They even dress as civilians when they fight. Like, what does the IDF do from the Israeli perspective? You know what I mean? I'm curious.
I mean, I'll bite the difficult bullet. Like, I think that after October 7th, there was always going to be some level of IDF incursion into Gaza. That was always going to happen. You can't just let an attack like that happen onto a sovereign country and not respond to it.
Okay, so their bases are in the under schools. They embed themselves in civilian population, excuse me. So these are all Zionist talking points. And so there's kind of this consistent trajectory. Like the story is repetitive, right? Where he believes that he doesn't have anti-genocide viewpoints, but then he spews a bunch of Zionist ideology and talking points, right? Which the two collide. Like he thinks he's anti-genocide, but then he says a bunch of pro-genocide things. So it's like, you think you're not a Zionist, but you are, babe. So then there's different clips of Ethan and Hilla saying some crazy things too. This is my personal opinion before we watch these clips. I feel like even if Ethan wants to do better and be better and not fall into the trap of so much Zionist talking points, I think that Hilla will not let her. Because I think Hilla is, I don't know how to pronounce her name, and to be quite frank with you, I don't care. But I think his wife is really like a Zionist, and she was in the IDF, she lived in Israel. I just feel like she's just always going to be a Zionist, and however which way Ethan tries to go, I feel like she's always going to kind of like navigate him back into the Zionist propaganda.
We ever back a genocide?
I'm sorry.
When? Like, show me.
Dude, at his rally, Rudy was saying that Palestinians are taught at 2 years old to kill Americans.
And the Palestinians are taught to kill us at 2 years old.
That's pretty spicy.
Yeah.
Do we have that one?
Mean,
like, Kamala.
Just the other day, Bibi fired a really good guy that a lot of people are pissed about, and he fired him because they had a disagreement, and that's like so Trump code.
Saying that Yoav Gallant is a really good guy is crazy work. That is insane. That is actually like genuinely insane, because he speaks about Palestinians. He calls them human animals. So you're saying Netanyahu fired a really good guy? You are either the dumbest person alive, like you don't follow politics, you don't know anything, or you're a straight up Zionist. It has to be one or the other. And I think in this situation, it's the second one.
He was like a moderating voice in the war room.
Yeah.
And he got rid of him, or at least a more moderate voice. I don't know anything about the guy. Just recognize his picture. He looked mean. I thought he was mean just because he looked mean.
No, it's not.
If there's a state of Palestine, it makes sense. But if you're in one state, all that's going to happen is like everybody is trying to bring as many people there as possible. And like by the time, there frankly are a lot of Palestinians, right, in the area. And once the Palestinians outnumber the Jews, basically anything is fair game for the Jews. Anything.
But I mean, the Palestinian cause is for sure plenty talked about. Again, I've gone out and I've said that everything y'all want to hear about there being a genocide and apartheid and the fucking warmongering Israeli government and all that fucking shit. Okay, so in short, suck my fucking dick. How about that? Fuck you people. Go somewhere else. Like, seriously, if you're that sensitive.
You see the cognitive dissonance, right? There's one point where he's like, can someone tell me how I'm pro-genocide? And then there's a whole other side where it's like, he says a bunch of Hasbara shit. And it's like, well, right? I don't know if it's cognitive dissonance. I don't know if it's because Hila is maybe brainwashing him. I don't know if it's because he's fallen into this and he's just too deep to come out. I just don't know. I don't know what's happening, right? But there's a clear divide between what he believes and what he thinks he believes, which is kind of like confusing, right? Because I feel like even he's confused at this point. So then Ethan Klein also says Hezbollah has killed more Arabs than the IDF ever has. Completely false. When you look at the numbers and you compare the numbers of people who were murdered in Ukraine in 1 year, Iraq in 1 year, Afghanistan in 1 year, the number of people in Gaza was exponentially larger than almost any other modern day war that we've had. It is on record by the Lancet that they believe more than 200,000 people have died from Israel's onslaught onto Palestinian people. Now, all the 200,000 aren't directly from bombs and shrapnel and guns. It can be starvation. It can be, traveling long distances. It can be dehydration. It can be, getting sepsis or getting disease, right? There were a lot of different diseases that were going around because there were no medication or hospitals that were functioning. But it's just, you're really dumb if you think that. You're really dumb if you think that, because in actuality the IDF has killed more Arabs. The IDF's onslaught onto Palestinian people has had the worst death toll than any other modern day war. So for you to say Hezbollah has killed more Arabs than IDF, like I said, you're either a fucking dumbass, you don't know what you're talking about, or you have completely fallen into Hasbara bullshit. Like I said, I don't know which one it is, but it's one of them.
Muslim, some ordinary gamer says, the amount of sympathy for terror groups that have murdered thousands upon thousands of innocent Muslims completely is disgusting. These people are so... Exactly, man. If they cared about Muslims and Arabs, then they wouldn't be singing Hezbollah's praise. That's for goddamn sure, because Hezbollah's killed a hell of a lot more Muslims and Arabs than the IDF ever has. By many multiple times.
Yeah, that's categorically false. That's just categorically false. So you see the trend here, right? It's a common theme. Keeps happening. Then there's a whole phase that Ethan goes through where he's telling people to just, quote, go to Gaza. This is a really interesting thing to say to people because, first of all, you can't just go to Gaza, right? Like, there's a whole entire blockade. It's incredibly hard to even get close to a checkpoint close to Gaza. Like, they don't just let people go in. It doesn't work that way. But second of all, Gaza cannot, there is no protections for people who are journalists that go to Gaza. And we all know that they specifically tend to target journalists and people that are documenting what Israel is doing. So for him to say just go to Gaza, it's a really easy scapegoat in my opinion, right? I feel like every Zionist has been telling Hassan to do that because even Extraordinary Gamers was like, me and Hassan can go to Gaza together, and Hassan was like, is he trying to get fucking murked? Which I agree.
People want to stand by their principles. They want to be these heroic advocates, but they don't want to risk fucking anything. Hassan should go to Gaza. And if he doesn't, he should be severely judged by his audience for being a total fucking coward.
It's part of why I judge him. He doesn't know shit about that conflict. He's never been to Gaza, never been to Israel. He doesn't know shit about it.
No, he doesn't.
He does not. But he talks with such authority. Oh my God. You would think he's been there 5 times since October 7th already.
You sound like someone that needs to talk to Sam Cedar.
Yeah, Sam Cedar, another one I'm ready to burn.
Just because Hila has been to God, she lived in Israel, does not mean anything. It doesn't mean she knows anything about what's happening in this conflict. Actually, the people of Israel are so misinformed about what is happening between Israel and Palestine and how they've overtaken land because they believe they're God's chosen people, that they are probably the worst people to talk to when it comes to this conflict because most of them just don't know. They've been fed a bunch of Hasbara propaganda their whole entire life. So this argument that he hasn't even been in Israel, he hasn't even been in Gaza, he doesn't know. That's actually a lot better because you want a commentator to not go there. Because once a commentator opts to go to Israel, then they get this whole fucking IDF tour by the Israeli military, right? We saw people like fucking Destiny do it, and it's propaganda. It's a bunch of Hasbara horse shit. So she's saying this as if it's a bad thing, but it's like, it's not a bad thing. So then Ethan responds to Hassan explaining why he can't go to Gaza, and this is his response.
The thinking about going to Gaza thing is also kind of stupid because I was invited by literal fucking journalists that work in Gaza, okay? And I unfortunately most likely will not be able to go because the people that I did talk to said that they could not give me security assurances that Israel would not.
That's why it's fucking admirable. That's the whole point, you dumb fuck. If it was perfectly safe, everyone could go there and it wouldn't be admirable. You wouldn't be risking anything at all. That's why people are saying he's actually considering going to Gaza like it's a good thing, because it's risky. What do you mean? Did you think that they could promise you security assurance in the middle of a war zone to begin with? What the fuck does that even mean? It's insanely pathetic. Somebody please. It's unbelievable. That's why it's good. What do you mean they couldn't give you insurance? It's so fucking stupid. And then his fans watch this and they eat it up. And I love how he leaves the door open. He's like, I might probably not go. It's like, shut up, bitch. We all knew you were never going to go because you are a fucking baby who's not willing to risk anything for this cause. Anything of substance for socialism or for Gaza or anything. You just want to sit there, collect money, hoard money, fucking live in a lap of luxury, hyper consumerism, and just like, what a grift, man. Holy fuck. Dude, he's such a fucking pathetic human being. Such a crybaby, too. That's Hassan for you guys. Let's all fucking cheer Hassan on. He once considered going to Gaza. He unfortunately is no longer considering it because it might be a little dangerous in a war zone. Who would have thought? I'm surprised he got his way out to Skid Row. You know, crime happens there. They couldn't give me. I wanted to go out to Skid Row, but they couldn't give me security assurances, you know?
Likely will not be able to go because the people that I did talk to said that they could not give me security assurances that Israel would not fucking kill me or anyone really, because Israel is not allowing Western journalists to enter the Gaza Strip, by the way. It's not even.
My bad.
It's not even because like Hamas is scary and they're going to kill you or whatever. That's not the fear. That's not the problem there. The problem is Israel could fucking nuke you at any moment and America will apologize to Israel for it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's a war zone. It's dangerous. That's why it's cool. Like I could go to fucking I could go to Italy. Does that make me a hero? No, because it's safe and it's a normal place to go. Mm-hmm. Hey guys, I'm going to Italy. He's actually thinking of going to Italy.
But yeah, no, it's such a laughable thing, dude. It's such a laughable.
It's like he can't even concede like, okay, maybe I was a little ambitious with that. It's like, no, I am heroic. I am heroic for considering going.
By the way,
I maybe might still go. That's what Hassan wants. He's like, unless they can get me a tank, okay, that can withstand nuclear explosions, I will not be going to Gaza. It's not that big of a deal. Let's not fucking pretend like he's a saint. This dude won't even go to Gaza because he's heard it's a little dangerous. It's a tiny, teeny bit dangerous in Gaza, so I guess I won't be going. Go to Gaza, bro. Show us that you care, man. I agree. If you actually went to Gaza, that would be impressive. But he can't, because he can't do it. It's a little dangerous.
First of all, we already talked about how the onslaught on Gaza is completely different than any other war that we've seen in our modern times, right? Afghanistan, Iraq, all these wars, Ukraine, we have seen much different. I mean, Ukraine had about 500 to 1,000 casualties in 1 year. We're talking about over 200,000 casualties in 1 year in Gaza. A lot of that being children. And that's not the kids who had to get amputated without anesthesia. That's not the people who are now with permanent disabilities, etc., 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 right? All of the above. But going beyond that, it's also this idea where it's like, if you don't go to Gaza, then you don't care about Gaza. When that's categorically false. First of all, you can't even go into Gaza. Like, there's a complete blockade. But second of all, why would Hassan go into Gaza when there is no protection for his life? Why would he do that to himself? Motaz Aziza answered to this. He responded to this exact conversation and argument. Motaz Aziza is this man right here, and he was a photojournalist in Gaza until he evacuated. So for about the betterment of the first year, he was in Gaza and he was taking photographs and stuff like that. And so he responded. I remember the conversation I had with Hassan when he hosted me in his house for an interview. I saw how much he was moved and wanted to learn more from people who lived the genocide in Gaza. It's of course impossible for Hassan and others to enter Gaza because of restrictions from Israeli occupation. The only way for the world to see and hear the truth is through the eyes of Palestinians who document the constant Israeli crimes or lived under occupation. We're all being censored or deplatformed in some way. Thank you, Hassan, for refusing to be silenced by ignorant people. I hope one day we can welcome you to Gaza and in a free Palestine. So when you have a literal photojournalist that lived in Gaza his whole entire life responding to this and saying, I've met him, he cares about my people, and he wouldn't even be able to go there in the first place due to restrictions and blockades. And the only way that we can cover this is from the people who live there and from the people who are actually experiencing this firsthand. Are you stupid or are you dumb? You sound like a fucking moron. It's like they think it's such a gotcha, but it's like it's really not. Like it's not a gotcha. It's not the gotcha that you think. You know what I mean? You sound like a fucking moron that hasn't read a single news article. So when I went to Egypt to drop off everything that we had gotten Lama and meet Lama, because after we evacuated them from Gaza, our team actually tried to go to the Rafah border from Egypt. We were able to cross one checkpoint, and then the second checkpoint, the Egyptian authorities were like, turn back and go around. Mind you, we were miles away from the Rafah checkpoint. The Egyptian government had put up at least 6 checkpoints going up to the Rafah border. We saw like all these trucks lined up miles outside of the Rafah border on the road, and the drivers weren't even there. The drivers had just left the trucks because they weren't allowing aid to go in. So you haven't even been close to the border. You haven't even gone to that area. You haven't even tried to go inside of Gaza, and you're like, gotcha. You don't want to go to Gaza, gotcha. It's just like you sound like a fucking moron.
I've talked to Palestinian journalists and they've like wanted me to come out, and I can't get any security assurances against Israel, obviously, and that's like the major reason why it is incredibly dangerous. It's not because of like Hamas or anything. And these guys still like make a joke about it, and I think that joke plays a very nefarious purpose of making it seem as though I think in their minds they're just basically saying like, oh, you're too much of a pussy or whatever. But the underlying hidden premise there is that like Gaza actually is totally safe from Israeli bombings, and I don't like that. I don't like that because it's like basically a thinly veiled threat almost, where it comes across like a fucking pager joke. You know what I mean? It's not a war zone, it's a genocide. It's very different. Okay? You can go to a war zone. It's like almost like an individually crafted, like, I hope your pager goes off type joke. They know what they're doing. It's also funny when they dick ride Israel so hard, but they're also like, yeah, go ahead, Hassan, see what happens. Yeah, that's what Israel, yeah, exactly.
That's the difference, right? It's not a war, it's a genocide. I actually know multiple mutual content creators that went to Ukraine when Ukraine was invaded, and they were able to record, they were able to film, one of them has been working in a food like bank kind of thing for years now. There are safety reassurances that you can get if you go to a place like Ukraine. If you go to a place like Gaza, they don't give that to you, right? It's a genocide. It's almost like saying, oh, try to go to Auschwitz yourself. Go and film Auschwitz yourself and see if it's really happening. Like, no, you can't do that. Like, if you thought you could just pass right by the Nazis and walk into Auschwitz and be like, oh yeah, the gas chambers are real. Like, that's not, obviously the Holocaust was real. Obviously what happened to Jews in Europe was real. Like, I'm not refuting that anyway, but like, it's almost as if telling someone, hey, go into Auschwitz and see if it's actually happening. So then Hassan tweeted, goddamn, these people are fucking unbearable. It's so strange that his audience thinks it's a fucking meme. Go to Gaza. Are they not remotely curious as to why Western reporters can't get in? Are they aware of how many journalists Israel has killed? Is this all they do now? Question mark. And this is really important because when the onslaught on Gaza first happened, there were many journalists that tried to get into Gaza, but Israel wasn't allowing them to go into Gaza. They were forcing them to film outside of Gaza in in Israel, like in places like Tel Aviv and shit. And so it's like there were so many news channels that tried to send their journalists inside Gaza and they weren't able to. The only publication that had journalists on the ground in Gaza was Al Jazeera. Al Jazeera had a whole bureau chief and everything, which was Wa'il Dahdu. They killed all of Wa'il Dahdu's family, his wife, his children, his brothers, his sisters. The only person that was left was him. They almost killed him and his cameraman. They left them to bleed out for multiple hours. They didn't let any ambulances get to them. His cameraman died. He was sent to the hospital. He miraculously survived, but then after that happened, he evacuated to Qatar. So then Ethan says that he wants to go to Israel. So, okay, this is the third part of this. Ethan says that he wants to go to Israel. And are we surprised? Not really, because that's what they all say. So Bad and Banana made a video about this, which I actually really liked. We're going to watch portions of it.
So I think it's pretty clear by now that you should expect nothing from Ethan Klein, and it's mind-boggling that he continues to claim that he is pro-Palestinian, and it's even more mind-boggling given what he said on another idiotic podcast of his a couple of days ago. So Ethan Klein loves to claim that he is not a Zionist, and also that he's pro-Palestine in spite of, all the evidence showing that he very much isn't. It's generally not normal for someone who's pro-Palestine to spend literally all of their time just attacking anyone who is pro-Palestine and who opposes literally every single pro-Palestinian action ever, basically. He outright said that he wants to go to Israel and, I guess, make content to prove to everyone that there's no apartheid there. It's actually a really nice country. Everything there is great. All in the wake of Israel doing an outright genocide in Gaza. He didn't seem to care about Israel that much before. If anything, he sort of shit on it before October 7th. He'd moved there and he didn't really like it that much. That's obviously why he ended up moving back to the USA. But now he feels like this special connection with Israel. He wants to start selling it to people as this awesome place. So let me show you another excellent pro-Palestinian action by Ethan Klein.
We're planning to go to Israel in June with my parents and all the kids. It's going to be such a great trip. And I'm actually really excited to go there. I want to show you guys.
You haven't been there in so long.
It's been a long fucking time. What I want to do is show you guys how I see Israel. Because you don't see that. When you listen to Hassan and you hear all these fucking mega lefties talking about it, like it's some super racist, crazy, Jim Crow style of society. I can't wait to show you guys how beautiful, how multicultural, how free it feels for people, or just it's a beautiful place. It is. It's one of the most diverse places I've ever been.
So that right there is Ethan Klein outright saying that he is going to Israel in order to make pro-Israel puff piece content to try and sell it to people as this awesome, beautiful place where everything is actually really nice. And there's, as he outright said, that there's nothing Jim Crow, there's no segregation, there's no apartheid, there's nothing bad at all actually. And this is all in the wake of the fucking Gaza genocide.
Yeah, so this is what all of these people do, right? They, John Fetterman just literally did it. Destiny did it. There were multiple content creators that went to Israel. There was that one, Jewish chef that went to Israel and she was like, I'm making food for IDF soldiers. So this is not a new phenomenon, right? There's a lot of creators who will go to Israel. And then obviously the whole birthright trip is very much that kind of propaganda as well, where they try to bring as many Jewish people as they can, mainly, teenagers and young folks. They bring them in, they take them to all the touristy spots where all of the hot IDF soldiers are at. They try to promote them to go and have fun and date so that hopefully they'll meet someone and move to Israel. It's one of those things where it's so I know people who have had to go to the West Bank and they had to go through Israel to go into the West Bank. And it is undeniable that obviously Israel is a country, right? They've built many different cities. It's very developed, but that makes sense because they get so much funding from America, right? If they weren't developed, that would be a problem. Where's all that money going other than, murdering a bunch of Palestinian children? But, the conversation isn't, is Israel, is it multicultural or not? Do you feel free when you go there or not? That's not the conversation, right? Because if you go in the street and you hold a Palestinian flag and you say free Palestine in the streets of Tel Aviv, you're going to get arrested. The most, what do they say? The biggest democracy in the Middle East or whatever, the most democratic country in the Middle East. That's not a thing. You can't get married if you're gay. They tried to sterilize Ethiopian black Jews Jews that are there. They've done a bunch of really heinous shit. And so it's like, yeah, you can take your camera and show us all these cool places, but I dare you to go into the street and hold a Palestinian flag and say free Palestine. I would love to see what would happen to you, because I know damn well you're going to get beat the fuck up. You're going to get beat up. And we're not talking about a normal society. And listen, I might get some hate for saying this, but this is purely my opinion and my opinion only. We are talking about a society that argued within their Knesset, within their government, if it's okay to rape Palestinian people or not. Most of them leaning towards it's okay. We are talking about a society that tried to free 5 soldiers who were on camera raping a man so violently, a Palestinian man so violently in one of their camps, their concentration camps, that he died in the hospital. They arrested them, they put them in jail. There were people trying to free them from prison because they believe that they did nothing wrong. We are talking about a society that goes and on purpose trashes aid trucks that go into Palestine because they don't believe that they deserve it. You're not talking about a normal society that sees Palestinians as humans. We are talking about a society that is generally okay with raping Palestinians, with taking their aid, with taking their food. So sure, if you go around and you walk around with your little camera, oh my God, this is so cute. Sure, no one's gonna do anything about you. But go in the street and hold a Palestinian flag. Go in the street and say free Palestine. Go in the street and say Netanyahu is a mass murderer. Let me see how long you last. Let's see it.
That he wants to reward Israel for doing genocide. He doesn't think that you should boycott it. He wants to go there, do tourism, and film videos about how great and awesome Israel is in reaction to that. That's probably the most pro-Palestinian thing I've ever seen in my life. Wow, great job, dude. And just to say something that I've said many times before. Obviously, Israel is fucking great for someone like Ethan Klein, this American who moved there, got automatic citizenship just for an accident of his birth, just because he happens to be Jewish. Obviously, how he sees Israel is going to be great. I mean, he's like a member of the ethnic majority of like the group who this ethno-state, that's what Israel is, like an ethno-state that gives racial privileges to Jews.
Okay, then Hassan responds to all of this, and basically Hassan says, no way, the guy who ended his podcast over a disagreement on Israel's genocide, who spent the last year trying to get every pro-Palestinian voice banned, is visiting Israel like Michael Rappaport. He's going to show us all that there is no apartheid. That says it all. It says it all. To wrap things up, Ethan Klein is continuing on his crash out. He, for some reason, believes that he's not a Zionist, but then everything he does aligns with Zionism and what Zionists do. So it's a bit confusing. I don't know if if he doesn't know himself, if Hila is brainwashing him. I don't know if he's gone too deep and he just doesn't want to turn around and go back. I don't know if he is just kind of doesn't care. I don't know if he's getting paid. I don't know. I don't know what's going on, right? But the things that he's saying a bunch of pro-Israel things, and then he says that he's not pro-genocide, which it's like, you're saying one thing, but then you're believing that you're something else. Doesn't make sense, bro. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment for more videos like this. We're so close to 15,000, so make sure you subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.